Hello, my name is Jay and welcome to my Tech Vault. And today we're going to talk about the tech I use on a daily basis. Now, obviously, I've done tech YouTubing for a bit. I guess I kind of have a little bit an idea of what I'm doing. But I've acquired a few bits and gadgets that I like to use on a daily basis. I'm going to take today to talk about what I use as a personal level. So let's start off with a little bit of the tech that I have. So this is an Apple Watch, which is hard to explain, but it is Apple, but it's from 2010, and it has a nice little clock face. I've got the nice little clock face that I like on it. And this is an Apple Watch from 2010, which I thought is really cool, and that's why I wear it, just because it's a cool little gadget that no one really knows about. As for earbuds, I usually use the Tozo T8. That's kind of my go-to for reliability. Yes, the case cracks and has a lot of issues, and the sound isn't as great. I've recently got a hold of these Comfom Q1, I believe, is what the name of them are, but they have a lot of problem with the case. The earbuds themselves are absolutely amazing, but the case has a lot of problems with the little pin snapping, and I'm hoping that it's hopefully just the defective model that I'll be reviewing those. I've also reviewed both of those, been making a video on this. As for my phone, I have the iPhone 7 Plus, which obviously people can argue that iPhones are very restrictive, and I would 100% agree, but I kind of do like the iMessage feature. Now, you all are complaining about, oh boy, well, iPhones are blah 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 blah. Okay, I agree. I'm just kind of, it's part of the requirements are when I got my phone that I would still be able to keep all my music, and that's kind of what the thing Apple does, is they lure everybody in so that you can't, you have to buy all the apps. If you want to switch to Android, you have to buy all your music again. If you want to switch to Android, there's a lot of lists, and to be honest with you, at the time it wasn't worth it. Now, obviously, my next phone, I am planning on getting, hopefully, an Android. We'll see how it goes. And I'm not really planning on sticking with Apple, especially with a lot of the stuff that the phones have been going on recently. Now, I was kind of lucked out here in that the iPhone 7 is a great kind of, depends on how you classify great, mediocre phone. I had the 4S before this, and I really, really liked the 4S. It was a good phone that lasted, pretty reliable, and I had no problems with it actually sitting back here. But the 7 Plus, I like the camera on it. That's what I actually started doing this YouTube channel on, was actually recording on the camera, which was a really good positive about it was. That's actually why I picked out this phone, got the 256 gigabyte memory, did all that stuff so that it would serve as a good YouTube phone, which is what I was planning at the time. And that's why I started this channel. I was recording on this camera on this phone. And over time, I guess I've gotten a new camera. I've gotten a lot of different stuff, and I don't really use it as YouTube as much, so the memory isn't really used as much. I do take a lot of photos though, which is nice. But the phone itself was more about the camera and the fact that it was a big screen, so I could play some games on it and stuff. And it was just mostly to keep all the compatibility. Now, I know I'm not saying I really don't think Apple is the best, and I would recommend an Android phone. There's a lot of good Android phones out there. Apple has not been innovating, but I just wanted something kind of for those reasons. In particular, now obviously iPhone 8 has a lot of glass backs and stuff, and then people crack them all the time. And then we've got stuff over on the other end of the spectrum where we've got sixes that are bending. So, and Apple's not taking responsibility. And what Apple's been doing recently, I want to get out of there and not have anything to do with it. So that's why I'm going to be switching up this phone in the near future. So, let's talk about a few other things. Now, this Apple Watch, and I put that in quotes because this is actually an iPod. Now, why does an iPod have the ability to have a clock face when you turn it on and act like a watch? Yes, that's because this is the Apple Watch first generation. So what originally happened was they wanted to make sure that somebody out there, if they were listening to music on their Nano or their iPod, they could see the time when they, clipped it onto their shirt and wanted to click on it. So there you go, you got the time. Now, what people figured out pretty quickly is that you could get a nice case, nice watch case, put it on your wrist, you'd have a smartwatch. And this was in 2010. And Apple didn't like this because they were like, that's a good idea. And people are coming up with a good idea and using our product for a good idea. And so the whole community begged and begged and begged for this little device to get apps. We wanted to have multiple apps for it, and we wanted to, there was a lot of different things, a lot of smart ideas that people started coming up with. They were like, hey, we should have apps on here. We should have integration with the iTunes. We should have integration with the messages. People started posting like crazy on the boards because they thought this would be such a good idea to have like a watch, an integration with your music, because you have an earbuds or earphones port on here. You've got a lot of different good integrations that people liked about this that made it a good watch and a good iTunes or a good iPod, and could have a lot of ability to upgrade in the future with integration with the iPhone. But instead, Apple decided to scrap it. They said, nope, we're just going to go back to the old version, old style, and we're not going to do anything about it. And everyone was really confused. And then about 5 to 7 years later, we get all that integration. Like, I understand that this was a product way above its time, but I don't think adding Bluetooth and connecting it to your phone takes 7 years. I mean, 6 or 7 years. And this was, at its time, something that was so crazy that I think almost everybody was, really excited to see. We thought this was going to be the next big thing. And I guess while the Apple Watches are, it's been a couple years later. And so that's why I really like this, is because you've got iTunes, you've got all the other good features on it, but it's such a unique device now that, there's no such thing like it. The battery's going on it, sadly, which is really heartbreaking, but it's such an amazing device in the sense that it was so far ahead of its time, and it still does its job beautifully. And that's kind of why I like it, is because, yes, while everyone's, going on talking about, oh, I got the new iWatch, this one's got a lot of a story behind it, and I feel like that's kind of the history about it. Well, yes, it is something that still does its job and still has the ability for headphones and still does everything it's supposed to. It really does have a lot of history behind it, and I feel like that's a good thing to have, especially a nice story to talk about when people ask, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's the iWatch that was before yours, and they're like, haha, very funny, and you actually are right. And then, as I said earlier, these are the two earbuds that I use. I like these a lot. This one if I'm really going for reliability, and this one if I can get it to charge. But those are my pieces of technology that I take on a daily basis practically everywhere. I do have an iPad that I kind of use for some video editing and things like that. Not in the sense of editing video, but kind of for the videos and systems and planning those out and stuff. But that is pretty much the tech that I bring absolutely everywhere. That is the technology that I kind of bring on a daily basis. If you guys like to see the technology that is in my, cave, we'll talk about that in maybe another video. But that's kind of the story behind what I choose to bring with me everywhere. And as always, thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And check out my channel for other cool tech-related news, videos, etc. Goodbye.